All right, ready. I'm going to throw up a really quick video on servicing my 2018 Crosstrek manual transmission. And the reason I'm doing it is because there's really no information out there on it. I checked YouTube and they have, videos on changing oil, which, super simple. I mean, drain plug, oil filter, you're done. But on servicing the manual transmission and the front and rear differentials, that's a different story. I called, before I got up underneath this vehicle, jacked it up, I called the dealership and was trying to get a little information, and they just kept, sending me in circles. They didn't want to give me the information. They want you to bring it in, and they want to charge you a bunch of hours of labor for a job that I've never done before on this vehicle, and I literally changed the transmission and front differential in it took me 15 minutes, and I did the rear differential in about 15 to 20 minutes. And all it cost me was the fluids. First off, before I get to that, I called a dealership and asked about the manual transmission and the front differential. I wanted to know if they were two separate systems with their own fluids. And the guy who was the service manager said, "Yep, two different systems. You really need to bring it in. It's a tough job. You shouldn't be doing that at home." That's what he told me, but couldn't tell me anything more. I was like, I've changed a lot of differential fluids on vehicles. I've done the transmission, a manual transmission. It's never been that big of a deal. The only difference on this vehicle is it sits a little lower than my typical 4x4 that I get up underneath without jacks. And another thing about don't get me wrong, I love Subaru. I have two of them. I have over here, got my STI that's in a cover, under a cover right now. And then that's a 2017 STI. And then I also have my 18 Crosstrek. The problem with Subaru is their service. They do not want you to do anything for yourselves. They try to make it all ambiguous, like your service schedule for like differentials and manual transmission. Oh, check it. If a fluid looks bad, change it. But then some dealerships are like, no, you got to change it right now. It's just not consistent across the board. I've got 70,000 miles on my Crosstrek. It's my daily driver. I drive it 100 miles a day. I've had it now almost 3 years. So that's quite a bit of miles for 3 years. But anyway, I just decided to quit and try to deal with the dealership and do it all myself. And I got to tell you, if you own a manual transmission Crosstrek, it's the easiest thing to do in the world, changing out those fluids. First off, the manual transmission and the front differentials are a closed system. You change the fluid in one, you hit them both, and it's super simple. I'm not going to show you. It's really simple. You pop the hood on the passenger side of the engine bay, looking down. You'll see the axle and the transmission. There's a filler plug there. You pull your dipstick out, you can check the level. That's where you're going to fill it from. Super simple. You're going to need one of these. A long, flexible funnel. I bought this to change the transmission fluid on my diesel Kubota tractor, but it works perfect. You're going to need something long like that to get down and be able to fill it. But other than that, I'm going to turn it around. I'm going to show you the tools you're going to need for the rear differential and the front manual transmission and the front differential. So here we go. This is all you're going to need. 1/2-inch breaker bar. I prefer to have one that's a ratchet style. For the transmission, right in the middle of the transmission, along the axle, you'll have your drain pan. Uses a number 70 Torx head socket. For the rear differentials, you have a drain plug and a fill plug, 1/2-inch driver. That's all you need. Get one about 3 inches long, about like this. This is all you're going to need. That's it. Now, I've heard horror stories about how hard these plugs are in, so I jacked up my Crosstrek, got underneath of it to drain the manual transmission fluid, you know, this big old breaker bar, got ready to put a lot of effort into it. It popped right loose without hardly any effort. Drained it. It's 3.5 quarts. I use Valvoline full synthetic 75W90 gear oil. I use that in the manual transmission front diff and in the rear diff. 3.5 quarts of this stuff. And then in the rear diff, you know, I would suggest popping the overflow plug first, just in case it is a pain in the butt. They say do the top one to make sure that you can get it off before you try to round out the bottom one. But they were both really easy. I just a little bit of effort and they pop loose. So I popped the top one off. I mean, the rear diff, I didn't even have to jack the vehicle up. And I'm a big dude. I literally drove it to the edge of my garage here, laid in the gravel where I was a little bit lower, got underneath there, popped the top overflow plug off, or the fill plug, if you want to call it. And then I popped the drain plug off. Super simple. Just make sure that you put the drain plug where it's supposed to go. It has a little magnet on it. That needs to be at the bottom, but they're both the same size. So I had a little bit of metal shavings. That's, you know, common with the break-in period. But my fluids actually were in pretty good shape. They weren't super dark. They were still pretty light. But it's such a simple process that I'll be doing that quite regularly. But anyway, I just want to put this video out there because I hadn't found anything on YouTube about the newer crosstreks or the manual transmissions. Everything's on the CVT. Now the CVT, they are two different systems. The front diff and the CVT transmission are two totally different systems. But if you do have a 6-speed manual like mine, very simple. I mean, couldn't be simpler. Save yourself some money, change the fluid yourself. I definitely would recommend the Valvoline. I did oil change recently, and I went with the OW20 full synthetic for my oil, and I just topped off. I bought some Pentafrost. My coolant was a little low, so I bought the off-brand. You don't need to buy that Subaru manufactured fluid. The important thing with the gear oil is it get the API GL5. That's the equivalent to what Subaru's is. So this definitely meets at the Valvoline, and it's a lot cheaper. But anyway, I've rattled on enough. I hope you got something out of this. I wish I had this video to watch before I started this whole process. It took me all of maybe an hour to do front and rear fluid changes, and I spent many of hours trying to figure out where everything was before I lifted the vehicle up and didn't realize that it was super simple. Anyway, thanks for watching. Later.